My name is Kate Strobel, and I'm going to talk today about the myth or the problem of learning styles. Initially, I chose learning styles because it seems to be something that's talked a lot about in schools, in education, especially when the beginning of the year rolls around and teachers are setting up their classrooms. I feel like a lot of teachers I know try to do flexible seating, which is awesome. And mainly they give the reason for flexible seating is because students have that different learning style that they need it for. For instance, they need to be able to move around and help them concentrate, which I agree with. However, I'm not sure if it necessarily has to do with learning styles. I think this trend kind of came about not too long ago. I feel like it's fairly new, but something I've read talks about the popularity of learning styles, and the mythology that may stem in part of these learning styles is the appeal of finding out what kind of person you are. So I'm going to talk a little bit now about the 7 different learning styles that exist, or the main learning styles at least, that are listed, and I'll talk a little bit more about them. So one of them is visual learner. So visual learners use images, pictures, colors, things that they can see visually to help them understand the material that they are learning best. The next type of learner would be an auditory learner or musical. So using sound, rhyme, music, and other sorts of things like that in your learning. Using sound recordings, making mnemonics or acrostics or something like that to help you remember what you're learning. Verbal and linguistic learning is a technique that involves speaking and writing. So having a teacher speak to you, you writing it out. Making the most of these word-based techniques with scripting what exactly the teacher is writing down. Physical or kinesthetic learning focuses on the sensations you would expect in each scenario. So also being able to use physical objects as much as possible and moving around. So I feel like those flexible seating classrooms that I've seen a lot of, and I have one coworker that uses it, they say that a lot of students are physical kinesthetic learners, which may be true, but there's also probably more to it than that. Also using role-playing, which could be used for educational plays or something that you're reading in reading classes. Solitary or interpersonal learning. Preferring to learn alone using self-study, so studying by yourself. I have a couple students this year that really enjoy learning by themselves. They like working by themselves. Social, interpersonal, preferring to learn within groups. So they're very social, and they want to be able to talk out what they're learning and through the process of what they're thinking about. Using role-playing, associations, and working in groups to practice what they're learning. Or logical, mathematical styles of learning. Aiming to understand reasoning behind what you're learning, and creating and using lists by making key points from your material. So just by listing those 7 learning styles, I feel like even as my own learning styles, I could pick, like 4 of those that go along with me. So I feel that I am a visual learner, a auditory learner. I definitely learn better when I have music going on and I repeat things and using sound and rhyme, stuff like that. Definitely a physical kinesthetic learner, and I'm also a very solitary learner. Sometimes I like the social interpersonal, but I also really enjoy solitary learning as well, because I feel like I can really truly understand it if I talk it out with myself and saying things out loud to myself like that. So just listing my own types of learning styles, knowing that that's the way I learn. The myth of the fact that only one learning style can pertain to students and that one learning style is the best way that they will learn is the myth that we're discussing. So, there's lots of people that say that there's evidence out there that supports one learning style for one child. However, there's actually not that much evidence to clearly support the idea that outcomes are best when instructional techniques are aligned with that particular learning style. There are several studies that contradict this belief. It is clear that people have strong sense of their own learning preferences. As I just noted, that I do have quite a few that help me learn, but it's less clear if these preferences actually truly matter when trying and discussing retaining actual information. Some might argue that in the era of flipped classrooms and online course materials, students master more information on their own. And despite knowing their own, students fail to use these techniques even though they know them, and it doesn't help them study. So basically, given the belief that learning styles matter and the fact that many students blame their poor academic performance on the lack of their teacher understanding what their instructional methods don't align to what they're learning, their type of and style of learning is, one might kind of expect students to actually rely on their techniques and using their personal learning preferences on their own. However, it's come to realize that it's a combination of all of these learning strategies that actually help students learn better and understand the material more. So having students trying to rely on one way of learning is actually going to not help them retain the information. And that is the conclusion of my problem with learning styles. I'm sure there's so much more information out there that is involved with learning styles, and I am interested in learning more about that. Thanks.